It is that time again, men. Time to answer your questions. Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, tactics, ballistics, all manner of adjacent topics, hopefully the right way, with God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm not going to go over a bio. It's in the show notes. This probably isn't your first episode. If it is, hopefully you listen to some more. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and fingers for battle. With that, these are going to come from Patreon mostly, or the community, where you guys can ask questions. If you are on YouTube and you're like, you haven't answered my questions, because I'm not on YouTube. I can't remember the last time I was on YouTube. I don't like social media. So if you want to ask a question, go to Patreon. I try and remember to make those as a free setting. I can't say that I always will remember, but I try and make the questions post where you guys can ask questions free to everybody. You just have to go there. There should be a link in the show notes. I don't think that's a very heavy lift for you guys. So if you want to ask me a question and you want to see it, if you see this on YouTube, that's because the podcast host rips this and puts it on YouTube, not because I'm on YouTube. So if you want to ask a question, go to the Patreon link in the show notes. Okay, now with that, let's go to some of the questions. Got some good ones. Are there any decent thermal scopes under $200 for killing raccoons or other nighttime predators that might kill my chickens? No, there are not. I don't know of many thermal sights under $2,000. Sorry to burst your bubble. Now, what you may mean is you may not be differentiating between thermals and night vision, which is possible. Even then, you're going to have a hard time finding decent night vision under $200. And even then, not the kind you're going to shoot with, just something you can see with. It would be okay for walking around the woods at night or trying to get out of the city, bugging out at night with no headlights. It might work okay for that, but it's not going to work okay for what you want. So no, the answer to that is no. But let me try and think of a solution for you. And the best I could come up with, I thought about this a little bit last night, RJ, because I saw your question. What you can do is get cameras, pretty affordable cameras. I assume you live on the East Coast because most people do. I assume you're going to live somewhere with cell coverage and or Wi-Fi because most people do. And if those are the case, you can get a motion-activated camera that works at night. And that will let you know when there's a fox in the hen house. And you can just go out there with your regular AR-15 with your flashlight on it, your white light, because you should have an AR-15 with a white light on it because you're a man and you live in America and you're listening to this podcast. So you probably have that. So wait till the night activation camera goes off, walk out there, turn your white light on, and shoot the animal. That's cheap, easy, affordable, and better than a thermal or night vision. Right? It just is. It's better for positive identification of target. It's going to be better than you sitting out in a rocking chair with thermals on, unless you just want thermals because they're cool, which they are cool, but they're not super practical for what you want anyway, and they're going to be several grand. If you want to spend several grand on thermals, go ahead. I wouldn't fault you, but for what you're trying to do, I think your best option, especially in that price range, is get an affordable motion-activated night camera and then just use the white light that's already on your AR-15. I think that's a good, affordable solution for you there. I see single-shot 22 410 combo rifles. What do you think of this type of rifle for squirrel? Any experience with something like this? I have experience hunting squirrel with both shotguns and 22s and some other stuff too. I don't have any of these combo guns, and that should tell you something. As somebody that likes to hunt squirrels and small critters and stuff like that, that should tell you something. They're cool in theory, but you get one shot of each. And here's the thing. If you know the environment you're hunting squirrel in, like let's say it's, the leaves are still on the trees and stuff, shotgun's generally better for that because you're not going to see very far anyway. If the leaves are off the trees, you probably want a 22 for that. So although these are cool, if let's say the only thing you were ever going to do is hunt squirrel and you are only ever going to own one long gun, and you were only ever going to hunt squirrel with a long gun, you weren't going to use it for a defense, you weren't going to use it for a truck gun, you weren't going to use it for anything. But you were just an avid, I'm going to hunt squirrel and that's all I'm ever going to do. I'm never going to shoot anything bigger. I'm never going to use it for a defense. And I'm only going to have one gun. Maybe then I could see justifying a over-under single shot 410 to 22. But you only get one shot of each. They're not great for mounting optics on, so and iron sights are great, but they are kind of a whole, if I'm hunting squirrel with a 22, that's one of the cases where I want magnification because the squirrel's head is pretty small. So you're not really getting the range you would get with a regular 22. And again, if we go back to the environment, I'm better off just taking a pump shotgun or a Ruger 1022 or a Marlin Model 60. Either one of those is going to be better if I know the environment. So they'll certainly work, right? If you just want a single shot shotgun and a single shot 22, they're fine for that. They're fine for that. So I'm not going to fault you for it, but you get one shot of each. Not a great option. A lot of times, especially when you're shooting like running squirrels or squirrels jumping from tree to tree, you probably want more than one shot. And I don't like to see things suffer. So that kind of stinks, having the single shot for that. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying I didn't grow up with a single shot shotgun and that's what I had. I made do with it. But one of the things a reason I had a single shot shotgun is because they were dirt cheap. They're like $75. The gun you're looking at, you could probably get a decent pump shotgun like a Maverick 88 for about the same price. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I wouldn't fault you for having one. Are they cool if you want a cool gun? Oh, and the other thing with the Savages, I believe you also have to select. So you can't like shoot one barrel and then the other. So it's not like you get a double because you have to use a selector. You have to cock the hammer and use the selector to select which barrel you want. So it's not like you're getting a quick follow-up shot. So that's something to be aware of there. But there may be some that don't have that. But the Savage is, I think, the one you mentioned and the most common available new one on the market today. So that's what I think about that for squirrel hunting. Hopefully that didn't burst your bubble. Again, if you just want one and you want to hunt squirrels with a single shot and you can't decide if you want a 410 or a 22, for that I say, okay, yeah, why not? Makes a fun, cool gun. I wouldn't say it's the most practical, but for a fun gun, I'd say it's fine. Okay, let's go here to the next question. Looking into handgun red dots. I don't like batteries similar to you, but the RMR is a bit out of my range. I saw a company called Medley that makes dual illuminated optics. I'm afraid to be the first to try it. I haven't seen one in stores. Has anyone else heard of them? Yeah, Medley, they're great. They're fantastic. They're good quality optics. They do make a dual illuminated. You're right. They're the only other company I'm aware of that makes a dual illuminated. If you're not familiar, I'm a big fan of not trusting your life to things that take batteries, because when they fail, and they will fail, you want to still be able to shoot the gun. So your simple solution to this, I would say, just get co-witness iron sights. That way, when the red dot goes out, you still have really good iron sights. That's the most practical solution. I also like to run, as he mentioned, the dual illuminated RMR he talked about. That's my go-to. They're not cheap. They're very rugged. They're very durable, probably more durable than the iron sights. But he said they were out of his price range. Here's the thing. The Medleys, I'm aware of them making a dual illuminated tritium and fiber optic, but only for rifles. I'm not aware that they make one for a handgun. So I'm not sure that's a good solution. And if it is, Medley stuff's not cheap. I'm not aware that those are much cheaper. They're fairly spendy. My best solution for you is to go on eBay and get a used dual illuminated on eBay that's been beat up, because if it's a Trijicon RMR, I've never seen one too beat up. They're about as indestructible as an optic can get. So look for a used one that's been beat up, that's got some cosmetic damage on eBay. That's my number one recommendation for you there. Or again, like I said, there are some decent, more affordable red dot sights. If you want to, you can look for one that's got the solar backup. These aren't the same because they can still fail. They're still electronic. They're still not as rugged as an RMR dual illuminated. But here's the thing, man. Iron sights can fail. I can't remember how many times I've seen iron sights break on a handgun. If you're running it hard and beating it up and using it in training and smashing in and out of windows and falling downstairs and dropping it, they'll break too. So it's not like iron sights are indestructible, which is one of the points. I was against red dots for quite a long time, and I went to a professional training class, and the guy was running a dot, and I was like, what if that thing breaks? He's like, iron sights break. And I was like, well, check. They do break. I've seen them break. I've seen them break quite a bit. So, yeah, they break too. So at least you have redundancy. So if you want them more affordable, just get, higher sights, so you can co-witness. And then if the dot goes out, guess what? You still have iron sights. So you were in the same place you'd be if you didn't have an optic. It's not like I'm not a fan of, and I can't stand it when they put red dots on guns unless it's just for competition. And I love competition. But if it's a defensive gun, no. You just have a red dot on your gun, you can't see the iron sights anymore. What happens when the red dot goes out? Then were you just guessing where your shots are going to go? Right? That kind of breaks a lot of the safety rules there. So your easy solution is just have higher sights, right? Just have regular iron sights and or regular high iron sights that you can co-witness with. They're better anyway because you can slave the dot to the irons once the irons are sighted in. And then if your dot ever comes off a true, then you'll know. You don't even have to fire a shot. You're like, oh, something's messed up here. Either my iron sights are messed up or my dot is messed up, but these are not plumb, so something is wrong. And then again, when the dot goes out, you still have irons. That's I think, the solution you're looking for if you don't want to drop $700 on a Trijicon RMR dual illuminated. But that's the best solution, is to get co-witness iron sights and a Trijicon dual illuminated RMR. That's your best solution. A more affordable solution is just get the battery powered red dot with co-witnessed iron sights. So yeah. Oh, here, this one, you're asking for the impossible here. Top 5 east of the Mississippi states. Okay, so here's the thing. You guys know I talk about the Iron Curtain or Mordor, which is what I consider the East Coast. I grew up there, guys. I grew up in the Deep South. It's crowded with people. The population density there is way, way too high. And yes, I've been all up and down the East Coast. I've been to 49 of the 50 states. The only state I haven't been to is Hawaii, I'm pretty sure. And I've lived in a bunch of the states. I lived as a nomad since I was 17, and I'm 42 now. So you do the math. I live where I live on purpose. I've lived here several times. The Rocky Mountain West, the Redoubt, Free America, Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. I live here for a reason, right? Because there's way too many people on the East Coast for me, for like a survival. When they say like 90% of the population will die when the grid goes down for a year, that's a lot higher on the East Coast, right? Because the population density there it's way too high. You're asking for the impossible for me to give you 5 good states. Used to be I would include Maine on this list, but Maine has turned into Little Mogadishu number 3. Little Mogadishu number 2 would be Minneapolis. But Maine is infested with Somalis that want to kill you and cut your head off and take your women. So I can't even put that one on the list anymore. Well, not where I live. They're in the city. I'm in the suburbs. Yeah, but when the food runs out in the city, where do you think they're going? To the suburbs. So, yeah, I can't. I cross that one off the list. And the problem with most places on the East Coast, people think, oh, I live in the country. But you're within half a tank of gas of a major metropolitan area. Man, if I'm going to do this, here's what I'm going to tell you. I am not saying that any of these are good. I'm saying if you are stuck east of the Mississippi River, these are better than New York City, okay? Like, these are better than Manhattan. These are not good solutions. This is like saying I'm about to play Russian roulette. Is it better for me to play Russian roulette with 5 rounds in the cylinder or 1 round in the cylinder? Well, it's better to play with 1 round in the cylinder. So just realize, if you live east of the Mississippi, I consider you playing Russian roulette when the grid goes away. Period. End of sentence. So with that said, also listen to my episode I did on strategic relocation. But I'm not going to tell you anywhere east of the Mississippi is good. Okay, so let me give you if I have to give you a top 5, I'll give you a top 5 of really bad places. On a scale of like, if good is like a 10, on a scale of 1 to 2, I'll give you on that scale. So Vermont, I'd put Vermont as a state on the list. Most of that state is pretty rural. I'd put Vermont on there probably number 1. If I have to pick whole states, Alabama, they don't have a lot of big metro areas. So I'd probably put Alabama on the list. Mississippi would go on the list. Now, these are not places a lot of people live now, which is why I'm putting them on the list, which is probably not where you live, because a lot of people want to be like, I want a fancy job so I can put rims on my truck and live in the suburbs and drink fancy coffee, but also be fine when the peanut butter and chocolate hits the fan. These are mutually exclusive things, guys. But Alabama, Mississippi, what does that give me? 3. West Virginia would give me 4. And I don't even like West Virginia. I love it there now, but all the people that live east of there in the big metro areas, guess where they think the country is? West Virginia. Guess where they're going to go? West Virginia. When people in, the swamp of D.C. and that whole metro area, Alexandria, Virginia, all those places, when they think of the country, they think of West Virginia. Guess where they're going? West Virginia. Millions and millions and tens of millions of people. So it's decent there now. Maybe you could buy a giant compound and string it with razor wire. But again, you told me to give you 5. I'm giving you 5. West Virginia. Man, I'm really struggling to get 5 here. 5 would probably be North Carolina. It's not great, but it's better than my other things that I'm thinking about. So I guess that would be my top 5. What do I think of the P90? And I think it's here's what I think. I think it's a shame that we can't have the real one. I've said often that, the best way to fire a shoulder-fired full auto, and I've fired many, is to put it in semi-auto. Something like a Thompson submachine gun, something like a full auto M4, Car 15. The best way to fire those is to put them in semi-auto if you actually want to hit anything. If you're like storming a trench and you've got 50 people 2 feet away from you, yeah, full auto is nice. But other than that, put it in semi-auto. Again, and I have experience with this. It's just you'll probably never use it in full auto, even if you could have it in full auto. It's just impractical for most in shoulder fire. The exception to that would be the P90, because it was designed from the ground up to be a PDW. And it has a very low recoil round, and it's shoulder fired. So yeah, shooting it in full auto is feasible. So that is a really cool gun. You can't have that. I can't have that. Even if you paid for the tax stamp and got the machine gun version, none of these are legal as far as I'm aware, because they came in after the machine gun ban. You can get like full auto M16s. You can buy one 60 grand if you want for the stamp, and you can get one transferable machine gun. As far as I'm aware, there's 0 like this that you can get as a civilian. So you can't have that one. And you can't have the actual short one unless you get a tax stamp for a PDW or for an SBR, short-barreled rifle. Because the way the stock is, you can't really put a pistol brace on them. It's a bullpup, which I usually don't like bullpups. Anyway, but let's say you went the SBR route. Well, for what? Is it a truck gun? Because if it's a truck gun, you can't really go state to state. You're supposed to notify the ATF, I think, per written letter every time you cross state lines with one of these items. So it's not a good truck gun unless you just like live in the middle of Texas and you're never going to leave Texas. You're going to be born and die in Texas. But if you're going to drive state to state, then you can't do that with it. So even if you get a tax stamp SBR with the shorter barrel, doesn't make a lot of sense. If you get it with a 16-inch barrel, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because now it's bigger than a lot of other things and bigger than the PDW it was intended for. And I can think of way better things once you go to the 16-inch barrel. And it's a bullpup. So, yeah, it's not worth it there. And, yeah, it's kind of a cool gun that falls into a no man's land because of our rules and regulations. The actual full auto P90, it's a cool gun. But again, you and I can't have that. So I think it's a cool gun if you can get the original one. If you're doing, private contracting overseas and you can get one, I think they're great for what they're meant for. If you're doing, executive protection work or, dignitary work overseas and you can get a full auto one, yeah, rock on, go for it. I think they're great. But again, if you don't have the actual one, doesn't make a lot of sense here. There's a lot of other 5.7 guns I think probably make more sense on the American market. So those are my thoughts on that. Cool gun, but yeah, sadly you can't get the real one. Thoughts on solid copper monolithic bullets for handgun hunting or defense like Underwood? Is it better than FMJ in practice? If you mean like for practicing, they're just really expensive. So, I mean, if I don't know about you, but I buy my ammo most of the time. I do get some. I do work as a private security contractor, so there's stuff we do for their training we get for free, but it's not solid copper. If you just have no budget, like you are a billionaire and money doesn't mean anything to you and you can practice with solid copper pistol bullets, I guess go ahead. I don't really see a downside there other than you had better have really adjustable sights because generally they will not shoot in the same place unless it's just like some weird coincidence. The solid copper bullets, you're not going to shoot in the same place. You're not going to be the same weight. They're not going to be the same length. They're going to shoot differently. So you're going to have to dedicate yourself to shooting those solid copper bullets. And I've talked about this before, like don't be the guy that practices with 115 grain Winchester white box and then carries 135 grain plus P because they're probably not going to shoot anywhere near the same place. So what are you doing? You're literally have no idea where your gun's going to shoot. So you should find a load that pairs well, like your practice ammo is 115 grain Winchester white box and you carry 115 grain Winchester hollow points, and you tested them and know that they shoot in the same place because that's not even a given. But something that it would be more of a given would be like something like a Speer Gold Dot 124 grain and a Speer Lawman, which is designed to be the same shape and weight and shoot the same as the Gold Dot, the Speer Lawman 124 grain. And you practice with one and you carry the other one for duty or for defense. What are you doing with solid copper? Like, for defense, are you going to be practicing with all solid copper bullets? Because that's quite expensive. And if not, I don't know that you're going to find a FMJ load, a regular bullet that shoots the same place as a solid copper. Maybe you will, but that's going to take a lot of R&D, and that's going to be expensive. So again, if money doesn't mean anything to you, go ahead. Now, I love solid copper bullets for hunting with a rifle. They're great. But like once I shoot copper in a rifle, that's pretty much, unless I'm going to switch loads and resight in my rifle, I've kind of dedicated that rifle to that one load. So I know that it's expensive going in. I know it's probably going to be several dollars a round going into that every time I pull the trigger. But, I only get one elk tag a year unless, God willing, I draw a bonus elk tag or something. So not super concerned about it. For pistol, handgun hunting with a pistol? Yeah, if you're handgun hunting with a pistol, and let's say you've got a Ruger Blackhawk in 44 mag, you could just dedicate that gun to shooting solid copper hunting bullets. But, I mean, why? Because you're shooting a 44 mag, just a regular cup and core bullet or a semi-jacketed soft point that are very affordable, they'll do just fine. Yeah, I mean, they solid copper bullets certainly have their advantages. If you want to spend the money on that, go ahead. If you're talking about for defense, well, solid copper pistol defensive bullets have been out a long time, and I know they're marketed as like game changers, revolutionary. They'll kill a bad guy if you shoot him in the pinky or whatever crap they say, right? But here's the thing. That I'm aware of, no major law enforcement agencies, no major guys that do it seriously, no private security contractors en masse, any departments have switched to them. They use copper and lead, jacketed hollow point bullets that are proven, that are reliable. Speer Gold Dots, Remington Golden Sabres, Winchester Rangers. Like, they use these because they work and they know they work. So I'm not going to tell you to carry some unproven, solid copper defensive handgun round because it's got cool marketing and a cool hologram on the box or whatever. That's not me. So for handgun hunting, if you want to do it, and you just want to dedicate that gun to that load, go ahead. I don't really see much of a downside there other than cost, but I would never recommend you carry them for defense, again, unless there's some exigent circumstance there. Exigent circumstance being like you're going to carry a 380, which I don't recommend that. If it's like an emergency gun or like your uber small carry, it's all you can get away with gun, and you're not going to train with it much because most people don't like shooting those little 380s because they're horrible to shoot, which is one of the reasons I tell you not to carry them. But that's all you're going to shoot out of it, and you can get the sights adjusted so they shoot in the same place, and you're going to carry one of those screwdriver rounds, solid copper. If that's what you want to do and that's the only thing you're going to shoot out of that gun, you're going to get the sights so they shoot where you're aiming with it. And, because it's such a small caliber, you don't feel like you're going to do well with a full metal or with a let's say with a jacketed hollow point, and you think that it may not expand because it's a tiny barrel and a tiny round, and you're choosing between a screwdriver solid copper round and a full metal jacket round, I don't see much of a trade-off there. And that, I'm trying to think of a thing where you might carry a solid copper for defense. Maybe then. Maybe. But in general, I would say no. Not for defense. If you want to do it for handgun hunting and dedicate yourself to it, go ahead. I do know from people that know more than me, for the solid copper bullets, I have some. I've been loading them for maybe 10, 12 years, longer than that maybe, but from what I hear, when you are shooting them in a rifle, it's the best practice to clean all the way down to bare metal. I don't just mean pulling a bore snake through your barrel. I mean cleaning down to bare metal, which could take hours when you switch back and forth between copper and your more traditional cup and core bullets. I don't know how much that holds true for a handgun, but if that does hold true, like for your hunting revolver, that's a giant pain in the butt, because revolvers are a pain in the butt to clean anyway. So something to think about there. Good question. I like solid copper bullets for what I think they're best at, which is hunting in a rifle. They do offer some advantages if you're shooting they offer some advantages. So let's just leave it there. I think I've done an entire episode on solid copper bullets. So there's that. Let's keep going here. This is one that I thought would make a good question. Guy talking about the single action convertible revolvers. These are pretty cool. There's a lot of these, real common also in a 22 long rifle. 22 long rifle and 22 Magnum. Heritage makes them that are super affordable. Ruger's made them for a long time. Switching between 22 and 22 long. 22 long rifle and 22 Magnum. That's fairly common in the 22s. There are some companies that make, let's say, big boy revolvers, like centerfire revolvers, in the convertibles. Ruger, again, they make the Blackhawk, and they make two variants. They make several variants, but two big caliber exchanges. They make the 45 Colt and the 45 ACP version, and they make the 9mm and 357 version. One of the guys on Patreon says he cannot decide, or he's having trouble deciding which one he wants to get, the 45 and 45 or the 9 and 357. Well, what do you want it for? A lot of people, and this is not me, but I realize this is a lot of people. Not everybody has to be like me. Some guys just get guns because they think they're cool, and they just want to be cool and wear it to a barbecue or post it on Instagram. And if that's you, that's fine. It's just not me. The cooler one is going to be the 45 Colt and the 45 ACP. That's definitely the Instagram flex one. To me, the more practical one would be the 357 and 9mm. Obviously in stainless, because if you can get stainless almost always. But the big reason is affordability of cheap practice ammo, right? 9mm is the most affordable handgun round unless you find some crazy sale on something, pretty much period, right? So if you want to shoot a lot, which I like to shoot a lot, if you want to shoot a lot and want cheap practice, you're going to want the 9mm 357. That just makes sense, right? Because it's the most affordable, most available ammo. And that's one of the reasons I used to be a giant caliber warrior back in the day when I was a cop and I thought I knew how to shoot. Then I got into competition shooting. And I realized I really didn't know very much, even though I was a decent shot for a cop. Most cops are horrible shots, so I was pretty low on the totem pole. So I started shooting competition, and I want to shoot the similar gun to what I was carrying. So back then, being a giant caliber warrior, and I was so young, I thought Glocks were a good gun. So I carried a Glock 21 on duty. Horrible gun, horrible choice. I didn't know much. I was a baby gunfighter then, right? So anyway, I started shooting 45 in competition, and I quickly realized, wow, 45 is expensive to shoot a lot of. You're talking like thousands of rounds a month. That's a lot of money. I can shoot a lot more, let's say for argument's sake about double, whether I'm reloading, which I was a big reloader at the time. I still reload, but not as much. I just don't have the time. But where was I going? I could shoot about twice as much or reload about twice as much for the same amount of money with 9mm. And me being able to practice twice as much is way, way, way more important than the caliber. It just is, right? So, So, again, if you want a practical, get the 9mm 357. If you want to be cool, get the 45 and 45 Colt. I guess they're both Colts, right? One is a 45 Colt, or long Colt, as it's sometimes mistakenly called, but a 45 long Colt and a 45 automatic Colt pistol, 45 ACP. That's definitely the cooler one if you want to flex on Instagram. If you're talking about for defensive use, stop. What are you doing? It's a single action. You're going to restrict yourself to 1873 technology, a copy of a Colt single action army for defense. Like, no. So this is not a defensive gun, right? This is, I guess, if it's what you were at the range shooting it anyway and somebody tried to kill you, you would use it for defense. But I would never condone you to carry 1873 technology for defense in 2026. But if you want to do that, go ahead. So neither one of those is practical. So one's cooler for Instagram posts, which a lot of people get guns just for that reason, and one is way more practical. So if you want the practical one, get the stainless steel, 357 and 9mm. That's my opinion on that. Let's go to less tactical, more practical, portable water filtration systems. Yeah, I've got a few for you here, and I don't know if you mean by portable like to take with you on a long excursion and a base camp kind of thing, or for your house. Berkey. Get a Berkey filter. I don't care about all the drama about Berkey. Get a Berkey filter. They're the standard. They've been a standard for a long time. I held off getting one for a long time ago, because they were expensive. Worth every penny. If they cost twice as much, they would be worth it. They are worth every penny. Get the extra. If you live anywhere where you're on city water, which you should probably move, that's a good indicator. If you're on city water, city sewage, city trash collection, get out of the city. Just get out. Just get out. But anyway, if you are going to be on that kind of system, then spend the extra money on the Berkey and also get the fluoride filtration. That's my advice. But the Berkey for like a base camp situation where you're not packing it. Okay, now if you're packing it, Life Straws are okay. They're not my favorite, but Life Straw, they're good if you just want them for like an emergency. You're going to use it once and throw it away, because if you're drinking really nasty water, which is kind of the point of those, they clog pretty easy. What I like better is the Sawyer Mini. Most like standard bottles that you'll find, they can screw, I don't say most, but a very common thread pattern, they will screw on there. So you don't have to actually sit down and kneel down by the stream and drink it out. I know that looks cool for Instagram or whatever, but if people are trying to kill you, watering holes historically are a good place to ambush something. So you probably don't want to spend a lot of time at the watering hole. So just grabbing a container and putting the Sawyer Mini on the top is a way more tactically sound method. So I like the Sawyer Mini better than the Life Straw. So Sawyer Mini is going to be a good lightweight recommendation if you want something for just like an emergency pack. It's what's in my emergency pack, a little Sawyer Mini. And then the best one that I have on like my big bug out bag or when I'm going to live in the bush is a Grail. The Grail is phenomenal. I really like that system. I really like the Grail. It's a lot more expensive than a Sawyer Mini. If it's something you're going to be doing all the time, again, I like to spend time out in the bush. I like to live out in the bush. the Sawyer Mini is worth the money. If you're only going to do it once or twice a year or have it for an emergency bag, you really don't need the Grail. Just get a Sawyer Mini. Those are my thoughts on water filters. Hey guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate the questions. Please like, subscribe, share. If you want to ask a question, go to Patreon. Heck, if you want to be a patron, I'd love to have you. Support small business, American-owned, veteran-owned and operated, all the buzzwords, right? So I would love to have you. Seriously, I would love to have you become a patron. It's not just me on there. There's a lot of guys that know more about stuff than I do. Like, I'm not a comms guy. We got a comms guy on there. We got all kinds of cool guys on there. If you want to be a part of a tribe of really cool, like-minded men, then they get it, right? Consider becoming a patron. I would be very humbled if you would consider that. Again, go to Patreon. A lot of the posts on there are free. You can just check them out if you want to do that. I appreciate you guys. No tactical tip today because Q&As are kind of like a long stream of tactical tips or advice. But how about a tactical verse of the day? How about that, huh? Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Pretty simple, right? That's from Corinthians. I forget if it's 1st or 2nd Corinthians. But, yeah, keep that in mind. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all that you do. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.